almost hear you. Oh my gosh, there you are. Good. I told you to make a lot of noise. Hi, my name is Chandler Allen, and I am here not because I'm an educator, because I am not an educator. I am not a school administrator, and I am not an interior designer that does corporate interiors. However, that being said, as they say, I was a suburbanite, a museum administrator all my life, who found a fix for difficult problems in the world. And that was, initially, we thought, simply art supplies for poor schools. My mother used to put me in the car. I'm from northern Wisconsin, and she would put me in the car. We'd drive way out into the country to the Green Giant factory. And yes, in fact, for those of you in the city, there is a Green Giant factory. She would buy up cases of dented cans. We would drive to what was then called the poorhouse. It's now a homeless shelter. And she would give the cans to the homeless shelter. And she would tell me consistently and constantly, if something's broken, fix it. And that has been a reoccurring theme in my life. Basically, if you see something broken, fix it. I'm a congenital, perennial fixer. See the need, heed the need, and feed the need. We started Fresh Artists 3 years ago because we were outraged at seeing the lack of art supplies that art teachers in this city had. The district wanted to do better, but they were very stressed. And we decided that we could find a way of fixing that. So we started Fresh Artists, which has a very clear mission. It's threefold. One is to help children in the city become philanthropic. Number two is to display widely K through 12 children's art in public schools in unexpected and high-profile places, corporations. And thirdly, notwithstanding all of the above, delivering art supplies and innovative, really wacky art programs to inner city schools. We stumbled along the way on an outcome that we never thought that we would see, and this was the exciting part. A richer, deeper purpose, and that is that decision makers who live in these big corporations, who were wanting this children's art, more about that later, were really seeing invisible children. Most of the people didn't see invisible children because they lived in a different life. And the art going into these corporations, the children became very apparent in their stories. Children also were changing because they were changing through the acknowledgement that the artwork that we were supporting and acknowledging them gave them. I'm going to show you some masterpieces that all of the children, K through 12 children, have donated. You'll notice on these slides that you will see that there is a child's grade. Alex Vallis is here, who did this, one of our wonderful artists. Next slide. This is also Alex's piece. We've just brought a ton of slides. We want to have all of you see this brilliant, brilliant work. 4th grade. Amazing, isn't it? Next slide. Quinn Donover is here today. She'll be working with you between breaks. This was her 3rd grade piece. Next slide. Now these are children in very stressed schools. Next slide. Bacteria by a 2nd grader. Isn't that wonderful? Keep going. Penguins. Very cool. Georgia O'Keeffe. Cézanne by a 3rd grader from the Barnes Foundation. Van Gogh's Starry Night. Now, I'm going to stop here at this slide. My wacky stories, I spend a lot of time in museums all around the world. My 2 sons are both here, Gardner and Roger. They're both involved in what has become sort of a family business, a family nonprofit. Amazingly, now at the end of my life, I am still managing a collection of masterpieces. And they are virtual because we don't have any ownership of the art. We return the originals to the kids. I fell about this work in a very roundabout way. I spent a lot of time raising a lot of money for a bunch of startup nonprofits while I was a stay-at-home mom. And at that point, I sort of fell in love with the kids in the city and public education. It was all new to me. I was hired by the then director, Paul Vallis of the Philadelphia School District, to decorate his new building, which was 850,000 square feet. Let that sink in, 850,000 square feet. It was the old Inquirer printing plant. They turned it into a museum, to an administration building, And we filled it with children's art, but we did it with a very unusual way. We actually photographed and digitized the photographs and blew up the pictures very, very large. You'll see them in the Baker Forum today. We have some examples. Here's a 7-foot by 10-foot piece by a sixth grader. We didn't use original art because the art would fall apart and it was the wrong scale. As you can tell, this is an enormous building. But we did learn while we were doing this. This district was only at that point able to spend 83 cents per child per year for art supplies. We were appalled and outraged at that, as was the district. They did the best they could. And we really thought, wait a minute, there must be a way around this. People were asking us daily, could they buy a work of art? We kept saying, no, are you crazy? This stuff isn't for sale. We're not selling children's art. We're simply decorating a very large building with it. Well, this went on for 18 months, over and over again. Vendors selling paper, telephone systems, and so forth, all wanted to buy one of these works of art. We thought, wait a minute. We were hanging art one day, me and my kid, and we said, what if? What if we started a nonprofit, build a world-class collection of masterpieces of children's art, ask corporations to make donations, then we would give them, instead of a tote bag or an umbrella, the way public radio gives you, we would give a photograph, large-scale photograph of children's art. Then we would take the money, buy art supplies, and give them back to the teachers into the hands of the children. Big circle. Pretty smart, eh? Next slide. The kids make art. Corporations give us money. Basically, we pour the money back into making more art. It's a circle. Supply and demand. We have, in 3 years, delivered more than $117,000 worth of art supplies to the Philadelphia Public Schools. We buy the art supplies. You are applauding the children, not me. The children are the ones who have raised that money. We've greased the squeaky wheels. We're the ones that have made it work. But the children, some of whom are sitting out in the back here, have done that. Very important. Let's hear it. We created a collection of over 600 works of art donated by 500 kids. And most importantly, we have placed 857 of these enormous digital reproductions into corporations, foundations, and individuals in just 3 years. So it's pretty amazing, from Oregon to DC. But, next slide. But we've learned much more, that it isn't just about the art supplies. Really, in fact, what we've discovered is that we are doing is teaching kids about philanthropy, empowering them in a way that we had never guessed we could in the very beginning. We just saw something that needed to be fixed and stumbled along a solution. What we've done is we've created a lateral philanthropy. Most of us have learned that haves give to have-nots, that we give to those less fortunate than we are. Nothing wrong with that. That's traditional. What Fresh Artists really has stumbled upon, and I keep using that word because I can't really take credit for the whole thing, is we discovered that this was a flat or lateral philanthropy, that the very same children that were donating the art were the same children who were being served by the output of it in the end, which was very unusual. We've worked with a very high poverty level school district. More than 76% of the kids are living in below the poverty line, and a lot are living in danger and deprivation. So we are working with a bunch of kids that, for the most part, really didn't believe that they had anything to give to others, and that they were astonished when they started to see the power of what they are able to do, delivering hundreds and thousands, actually, of pounds, in some cases, of art supplies. But we started to hear from the kids. I took a young man into one of the big facilities and showed him his work of art, and he stood there very quietly and looked at me, and he said, "I guess I really am somebody." A grandmother wrote to us. A child, her granddaughter, had a very severe speech impediment, really almost never spoke because she was so self-conscious. She came to our little Sprout Fest, which is our lemonade and cookie celebration, where we honor the kids every year. We take it very seriously. A lot of you have been to it. And she wrote a beautiful letter afterwards. She said after this festival, she said her granddaughter couldn't stop talking. She was chattering incessantly, and all she now talks about is wanting to be an art teacher. That is empowerment. That is a change. One of them that made me weep was an art teacher who wrote to us, and those teachers in the audience will understand what she called, her classroom was filled with March markers. Those are the markers in March that are all dried up. They're useless, and there are bins of them. And she talked about, this is up in North Philadelphia, she talked about the fights that would break out over that one juicy red or that purple that still had a little life in it. The frustration and the anger and the deprivation in that classroom. And she said, I'm going to quote, "The infusion of art supplies that the fresh artist kids delivered replaced the angry noise of neediness with the joyful noise of hope and creativity." Replace the angry noise of neediness. That's what this does. That's what these children can do for each other. The thought leaders and decision makers that we're starting to see this art. Again, remember, it's all over town. Now it's all over the East Coast. One person said, we're changing our minds about the way we think of poor children. She said, fresh artists go sneaky smart, under the tent of corporate America. I love it. I used to march in the 60s. Sneaky smart. That's a wonderful thing to be in my book, right, boys? Kids show the private sector that they're talented, generous, have promise and potential. They see that vulnerable kids are worth investing in. The art continues to speak long after we leave it on the walls. Let me tell you a story. We just had finished installing about 45 pieces in a big corporation. We were packing up our tools, and a lawyer came up to me, and he said, I can't believe this was done by a fourth grader. That piece right there, the blue one. I can't believe it. You must be lying. No, it's true. And I explained a little bit about the art lesson, and he said to me, sort of an appalling thing, but it proved our point. I guess these kids really can learn. Not what you hear in the news, he said. Then he said, redeemed himself, what can I do to help? Bingo. It proved to us that our hunch was working, that kids' art can transform not only workspaces, but the people who work in them. They see the invisible kids, and now they're called and engaged to help. Let me introduce you to some of our kids. I want you to meet Rovik. Rovik is gorgeous. He is adorable. He is 5 years old. He donated a work of art. It's out in the Baker Forum. You'll see it, dots and so forth. It's gorgeous. This is our Sprout Fest. I'm having a long conversation with him. At least he's been listening politely. At any rate, 24 hours after this event, I went into the dean of a big university very close to where we're standing today, and he wanted a new piece of art for his lobby. He chose Rovik's piece. This is it. He handed me a check for $1,000. Now this ink wasn't dry on this child's certificate from us that he'd raised the money to buy 239 pints of tempera paint. We took him to the installation about 3 months later and let him see his big work of art with the dean in the background. And I asked him, how big was the original Rovik? And he put his hands up and showed us how big it is. Now, you tell me that children can't transform the world. And he knows that he's a philanthropist. Why? Because we wrote a book. We weren't getting through to them. We wrote a book called Pablo, the Philly Philanthropist, because we wanted to make sure that the kids did understand they didn't just win an award from us, but in fact, they are empowered. This gorgeous watercolor, I was captivated by it, as everyone is. And I went to visit Esther, and I sat with her in her classroom, and we talked about life and art. And I said, Esther, tell me about this beautiful piece. And she said, well, I want to be a mathematician. And I said, oh, I was a little disappointed, being an artist myself. I thought, okay, somebody's got to do it. At any rate, she said, I make art because when I'm stressed and when I'm frightened. And again, another, not surprising to those of you who are educators in this room, but to me as a non-educator, I was blown away. That was an enormous revelation to me, that art was a coping mechanism for kids who were living with a lot of stress. Next, please. Her donation has realized 4,680 watercolor sets for the city of Philadelphia. Tell me that children cannot be powerful. This piece stopped me in my tracks. I got a call from the HMS School for children with cerebral palsy in West Philadelphia. They said that they wanted to be part of Fresh Artists. I said, I'm terribly sorry, but we only serve public schools, and very poor and struggling public schools. They said, no, we don't need your art supplies. What we need from you is the ability for our children to be givers. The part we love is the philanthropy part. And I said, well, you know, I don't know, you're private school. Just come and see the art. And then I said, well, and she said, I know what you're thinking. You can't imagine that our kids who are so severely disabled could make art that would be appropriate for your collection. I said, oh no, that's not what I meant. And she said, just come, just come. I went. I stood in the lobby. I looked at this painting. I met this child, and I wept. I cry a lot, can you tell? This is very moving work. This is much more moving than my art museum work, I can tell you. Here's Amanda with her art teacher in front, the head of school and the pink sweater behind her. But the best part about this is, look where her mother is, standing behind her, holding the big photo blow-up of her artwork. And isn't that a marvelous painting? We've gone back several times to the HMS School, and we're delighted to partner with them. And every time we go back, all the kids are wearing their lanyards like our kids are today. Amanda's donation, you'll see here, is in Safe Shores, which is a very fine, enormous child advocacy center in Washington, D.C. We put in 172 pieces. They chose her work and blew it up 12 feet long. We found a novel way of connecting these beautiful children with a very disparate segment of society. Very big, powerful corporations, business people, and so forth. All win. We believe that we're nurturing the new generation of philanthropic children, empowered to change their world rather than being buffeted by it. The engagement of the private sector is what's really interesting about this. Here is SAP, which is the largest manufacturer of business software in the world, a German company. The North American headquarters is outside of Philadelphia. They chose Fresh Artists children's artwork entirely for their new 220,000 square foot LEED Platinum building. And there it is, the most beautiful piece. The thing is that the art stands like a sentinel, telling the stories of the children. The brilliant art refutes the dangerous misconception that poor kids can't learn and that public school systems are beyond redemption. We took Wanea, who created this gorgeous piece of art, which is actually a rendition of Faith Ringgold's Anyone Can Fly. We took her to see her work at SAP. We do that wherever we can. And she was just blown away, as you can imagine. She is empowered now. She sees that she has not only value but voice, that adults are listening to her, that she has the power to fix things that are broken, that she has the power to change the minds about how vulnerable children are cared for and treated in the world, and most importantly, how they are educated. All kids are hungry to give, ravenous to make a difference in the world. We urge you all today and going forward to put your wacky ideas to work. This was a wacky idea, Fresh Artists. Get genuinely involved in designing innovative solutions to the challenges facing public education. Support those who are experimenting with new ideas and higher expectations. In the end, it's really all about access, isn't it? I'm called to action every morning. Those of you who know me know that my whole bathroom is pinned up with sayings. And the one that I read out loud every morning is a wonderful quote from Lauryn Hill, who's a marvelous singer-songwriter, and she wrote about access. I have come to realize what distinguishes one child from another is not ability, but access. Access to education, access to opportunity, and access to love. When the bar is set too low, kids will trip over it. We need to set that bar high so kids will sail over it. This is the start of a new day. Like a blank canvas that's in front of these girls, they're poised for action, joyful, like all of you, expectant today, hopeful. We must start fresh to rethink public education. Again, I can say that, I'm not an educator. I did it. I started fresh with those, many of whom are in this audience today, board members, volunteers, of course the kids, the wonderful artist philanthropists. We found a solution to one small tear in the social fabric, just one. We could get our arms around it, and we did it. You too can find solutions, and we can all design a masterpiece for our children. I urge you to start now. Thank you very much.